Attack. Okay. So we're gonna go down to where we left off. I think we discussed one term the last time. Okay, so here we are. To give you the text so you can, take a look at the photographs. So the last time we spoke about the first term, MTA, by way of year, and we were discussing some salient issues concerning, we introduced two terms in that discussion. The qualities of the earth plane to overcome, and those are magnetism and mesmerization. And these are important to reflect upon, because these are the principles that are holding you onto the earth plane. And so that's a difficult situation to be in from the perspective of the soul, to be trapped, as it were, on the earth plane. But that can only happen if you are magnetized on the earth, and that's through perception and wrong thinking and wrong understanding. And if you are mesmerized by the earth plane, and that's due to lack of knowledge of self and ignorance of the nature of self. So those are two aspects of your personality, or two, not aspects of your personality, but two principles of mind that needs to be overcome for you to enter into vacuum velocity. So when these two are overcome, you can achieve vacuum velocity. Let's see if there's something we can use to, you can achieve vacuum velocity when these are overcome. Vacuum velocity is the force that allows you to exit the earth plane. And that is a phase of meditation practice when you're actually exiting the earth plane. And we discussed the various aspects of components of meditation with relation to exiting the earth plane. So you have concentration, you have extended concentration, and then you have meditation. And there's a fourth one. You have meditation, and then you have transcendence. And that's the solution. So the solution means you dissolve your phenomenal attributes. That means your mind, your name, feelings, your thoughts, and all of the subtle principles of your personality. You dissolve all of those. So you go through a dissolution process. And this dissolution process, this equates to enlightenment. When that happens, then you can say that you experience a spiritually enlightened, you undertaken, or you have gone through a spiritual enlightened experience. But with transcendence, you have to do it repetitively. So you have to do it repetitively, not just once, not just twice, but you have to keep dunking yourself, dunking yourself, dunking yourself. Like when you do a tie-dye for a t-shirt, you have to continually put it in and bring it out, you have to keep dunking yourself. So you can't just do it one time, you have to do it many times, so it can have a profound effect on the unconscious. And by that, it's having a profound effect on your personality. Now, today we're going to talk about the act of following and surrender to His Majesty, Ra, Creator Spirit Being. I'm gonna put this in a different color. So, Shempu, Arien, Hem, Nura, Shempu, Hem, Nura. So That means cause to His Majesty of Ra, which means basically cause or due to the act of following and surrender. And many aspirants have issues with this aspect of surrender. And that's because what goes along with surrender, or what fuels surrender actually, is humility. And there are various practices of humility, but a practice of humility is not humility itself. It's a practice of humility. And there are ways that have been devised by the sages to try to develop humility within the human personality. One of those ways is prostration. I'm going to look for something to see if I can show you an example. Oh, here's a nice example. I actually have an original photograph of this somewhere, but this is one off the net using for now. You can see and this is actually in the Cairo Museum. I know exactly where it is. Is in the stairwell when you're going up to the second floor to the Tutankhamun exhibit. And you can see the female initiate. She's actually in a yoga posture. She's in the Sabek yoga posture. And here is Sabek. And she's bringing her forehead down to the ground in the yoga posture. You know, before you come up and you bring your arms out and so forth. So this is an act of humility. She's actually in the posture of the divinity, prostrating to the divinity. So she's prostrating to an aspect of herself, which is her own Sabek aspect. So that's one. See what else we can find. Here's another classical one. Here you see these are Nubians and Egyptians in prostration. See that they're bringing their head down towards the floor. And on another one where you have, again, you see on the floor, it starts out on your knees with your hands in a dual posture. And then you're bringing your chest down to the floor. The head is up looking at the image of the divinity. But you can also bring your forehead down to the floor. Here's another one. He's holding the shrine with Kepara at the top. He's stretched out, sort of like in the Sabek posture again. And here you have the, fully, you can be on your knees or you can fully stretch out on the floor. He's doing this in front of the goddess. And so this has come over to the Islamic faith. You see when they prostrate, when they do their prayers, and the Kemetic prostration is the origin of them. There's another classical one they don't have here. And if everyone can mute, please. Let's see. There's another classical one I wanted to show you. See if we can find it. I've shown it before in the devotional class. So anyway, you get the idea. So you see how they are. So those are acts of surrender, and they're actual humility that is developing within your personality, the capacity for surrender. And so it's something that you have to develop internally over time. And so how it works is you do your altar ritual. Before you do the altar ritual, you prostrate in front of the covered altar. And how that relates is that you would prostrate in front of the closed door to the shrine. So let me pull up a good example to show you. So I'll put this over here. So here is the inner shrine room to the temple of Heru Behudet. And you can see the bowl. Here is his bowl. And here is an altar. And here's the shrine that the divinity would be sitting in. So the statue of the divinity would be sitting on this pedestal inside the shrine. And it would be closed. You wouldn't be able to, it wouldn't be open. And here, so we're inside. Now we're looking out. And here there would be a tall door. So all of the doors have been lost, been taken off. So if you were standing outside this room, you would not be able to see in. So you would be standing outside here. And before entering in front of this door, you would do a prostration before the ramp. So here's the ramp that's coming up. So this is the highest point in the temple as far as the floor is concerned. The true highest point in the temple is in the shrine, on the pedestal in the shrine. And so there would be a door here. And you would prostrate in front of the door before entering. Now there's this metal gate. But in ancient times, you will not, however tall this room is, like 80, 90 feet, there'll be a tall door here. And so you would do the prostration, you would go down, you would not be wearing any shoes. Or if you're wearing shoes, it'll be shoes that are only worn in the temple. It's not shoes that's worn outside of the temple area, outside of the temple covered area. If you were to wear shoes, otherwise you'd be barefoot. And the shoes that they would wear would be sandals. So you would prostrate outside. Okay. I'll show you another photo. I'm setting up the lecture for you. We're taking it step by step. Because this idea of surrender is a big deal. So here, now you're in here's the hypostyle hall. We're looking out towards the outside of the temple. And so you walk in and you walk into a hypostyle hall. And there would be a door here, tall door here. So from the hypostyle hall, you would not be able to see in. And once you come in here, this is a room or open space where certain rituals would be taking place. And you can see the floor. So you'll be standing here, you can see the flooring. It's a ramping up. There are side rooms here and here. And so you're ramping up. And you would go in to this room, and there's another room here you go in. So there would be a door here as well. You can see the symbol of Behudet above the door. And then there's a door here, so you can see the boat here, the shrine, and the door would be here. You can see the ramp, then you go even higher than this level. So you're going up, you go in, you go another level up. And so there would be a door here. You would stand here before the ramp and you would do a prostration. You go down on your knees and you bring your head down towards the floor. Or if you want to, you would stretch yourself all the way, you would stretch out. And then you would get up and open the door if you were a priest that was allowed or a priestess allowed in this area. And you would unlatch the door and go into go into the Holy of Holies, where you would perform, either you'll be performing a ritual, you would either be reading the liturgy as the Gary head priest, the Sem priest would be officiating the ritual, the Gary head would be reading the liturgy, there would be a priest that's responsible for taking care of the divinity, for changing its clothes, dressing and undressing it, anointing it, various rituals that go on here. But the point being made is that before you enter here, you have to do a prostration. And so what we are doing with our altar ritual, when you have a cloth over your altar, you're in some way replicating this process. Because when you uncover the altar, you're opening the doors to the shrine where the statue of the divinity is. It's a sort of a metaphor for this priestly service, this clergy service. And so you'll do your prostrations inside the temple, or even before you enter the temple. Should give you now a greater perspective. So here's the pylons to the temple of Heru. The pylons are referred to as the divinities, goddesses, Aset and Nebuchadnezzar. There's a central opening. Again, a door would be here. Then you walk in, and you would walk into an open court. In front, you have two black granite hawk divinities who are Heru. And you have on the facing pylon, you have war scenes. You have the Purdah smiting the enemies on both sides. And Heru is presiding over the smiting of the enemies, while Aset is looking on. So this is not an actual war. This is a metaphorical war. And what this is telling us is what should be going on inside the temple. So this is a billboard for what's happening inside the temple is a war against unrighteousness, against the enemies of the soul. You have, and these statues are very tall, actually, but they look minuscule compared to the size of the temple itself. You have the central opening, and above the central opening, you have the wing disc of Heru Behudet. You walk in, once you walk in, you walk into an open court area. The point is that you can stop here and make a prostration before entering into the open court of the temple, where rituals or theater would be played out for the common folk, the common people. They would not be allowed into the covered area of the temple. They'll be allowed in a hypostyle hall. You can see how tall the walls of the pylons are. Now, a human being is these hawk-headed statues tower over human beings. So you can see in relation to the temple, a human being is like a pea. The one on the left has lost its crown. You should have the left and right crowns, the red and white crowns on it. These grooves in the facade of the pylons, these are referred to as pylons. And these grooves, this is where the flagpoles would rest in. The flagpoles would rest in here, and there would be the length of the pylon, but above the pylon so the flag can fly. So you'll have 4 flags, colors yellow, blue, and green. Those are the Kemetic colors. I'm going to zoom out so you can see the perspective of the pylons. If you're standing back from them, you can see how tall they are. And if you go close to them, then you're looking up at them like this. And what this is designed to do is designed to humble you, to make you feel insignificant, meaning your ego. And it's designed to awe you, to awe you about being in the presence of the divine. And you're in you're walking into the palace of the divinity, the house of the divine. And above the pylons, you have rituals being performed by the Purdah to Heru and the Set and other divinities on both sides. And once again, you have above the opening, the wing disc. So when you're coming in here, you can stand right here. You can do a prostration. You can do a prostration in front of the divinities. You can do a prostration on the ground in front of the doorway. Yeah, I'm saying that you really can't do that now because if you try to do it now, you'll probably get in trouble. But in ancient times, that's what people would do. You can't show any reverence to the ancient Egyptian divinities in Egypt, aside from being a tourist. You can't truly go there as a spiritual pilgrim or openly. You can do it the way how we do it, but not openly, because the ancient Egyptian religion is outlawed. And if you step back, you can see how there is a central, you can see how there's like a V shape in the pylons. The pylons represents duality, and the center, the opening of the gate, represents non-duality, singularity. So as you're walking into the temple, you're walking into the path leading to non-duality, which is the Holy of Holy rooms that we just came from. And these 2 pylons also represent the sides of the mountains and the center. So these are the sides of the mountains, and this is the valley in between the mountains. This is the Aket symbol. The sun rises in between the valley, in between the mountains to the valley, and that's infinity, that's creator spirit Ra. We are to surrender to. So when you come here, you feel insignificant, your ego feels insignificant. That's partly why they built the temples very large and very magnificent, with lots of color and vibrancy and so forth. It's to impress upon your personality. Stripping away your ego, you can develop a humility. And now here's the open court. So you walk in. So now you're seeing the back of the pylons. And you walk into the open court. It's the hypostyle hall. The peristyle court. You can see the columns on the periphery of the court. And here you also have, got some people in this picture, but it's good because it shows you the size of the people relative to the statues. So in this one, you also have two statues. On the left, you have a ruined hawk form, and on the right, you have a form of Sokar. And that's what it appears. And you have 3 pylons on each side, 3 columns on each side, and you have a central opening. And this opening, the door would come up to here. You know, the doors are 2 doors on each, 2 doors, one on each side, and they open and close, open and close like that. And then there's a door bolt that go between them to lock the door. And so this entrance is where you enter into the covered hall of the temple. You enter into the hypostyle hall, the hall of many columns. And again, you would stop here, and you can either prostrate to the divinities, or you go further, or you stand in the center and you prostrate at the door. And then you make yourself, then you go in if you're allowed. So not in ancient times, not everyone was allowed inside this area, only people who were allowed. In this peristyle court, this is where the common folk would come in to participate in theater. They would act out the war of Heru and Set here in this opening space, or other rituals as well related to the boat and related to Heru. You can see the covered part of the temple has a temple shape or temple structure to it as well. You can see that there's a specific angle on both sides. These are not straight sides, they lean in. Then the roof is placed on top of that. It's all built in stone. And you have your opening, your central opening. In here, you can see the size of the hawk compared to the person. So again, it's eyeing you, it's leaving you speechless, it's making you humble, it's causing you to become humble. You'll come in here. So all of this is leading to the act, the true act of surrender to the divine. So for each stage, you're going into every stage of the temple, you're offering a prostration. You're not just walking through like that. There's reverence. There is reverence. There is lack of egoism. There is effacement of ego. So you leave your ego outside the temple. You don't bring it inside the temple. Okay. Koja, are you there? Koja.
Ujuni.
Oh, okay. I can't see who's there and who's not. I think he got bumped off. Okay, and anyway, here then you come into the hypostyle hall. And in the hypostyle hall, you can see how large the columns are. Or who can see? You can see how large the columns are. And what happened is that you come into the central opening is around the corner here. You come in, and now you're in the covered part of the temple. If you look up, you can see how high the roof is over your head and how massive the columns are. So when you're in here, you're like in a forest, and that's what it's designed to be. It's designed to be a forest where Heru is hiding from Set. There's like a papyrus swamp. So this is where you're hiding from the ego. And what that means is that you're putting the ego beside you're effacing your ego. And in here you perform certain worships and certain studies. And the studies that you perform are on the walls of the temple. So you would be led through the temple narrative of this temple. You can see the people and how minuscule they look to the pylons. So it's designed to make you feel small. And what's happening is that you're crushing your ego as you're going in. Is engendering humility. And not only would you be studying the teachings on the walls of this hall, being led through the temple narrative, but there was a library. This room, this small opening, was a library where papyrus for study was held. So you would come here and you would pick whatever or however it was you were led to it, and then you would remain in this place and you would study. And again, you would have already performed a prostration before entering here. See these boxes on the floor? These boxes are not supposed to be there. I think these are the lights for the light show that I perform at night. You can see a light fixture here. These are light fixtures. So these are modern conventions. They're not supposed to be there. You can see on the pylon, you have wasp, wasp, net going around the pylon. There's the flow of life, all flow of life around all the pylons. So it's a central teaching of this room. By central teaching, I mean it's one of the foundational teachings that you are to, you are to become proficient in before leaving this hall, going deeper into the temple. So this idea of surrender has serious implications. And we're going to talk more about that next time as we're running out of time. So I just wanted to give you a perspective from the temple and to see that as you're walking through the temple, not only are you walking up, but in each phase you're doing a prostration and you're doing a genuflection as you move into the temple. Now, you're not doing it only one time, you're doing it every time you walk into the temple. You're doing that act every time. So if you're going in there daily or twice a day or 3 times a day, you're repeating it over and over and over. And that's helping to efface your ego. So we'll talk more about that next time. Are there any questions? And so you can see that although the line is talking about a profound mystical experience of exiting the earth plane, that the foundation is not being left behind. Meaning you're not going to do this and think that you're doing it through your ego or an ego principle, but it is the surrender of the ego. It is letting go of ego that is allowing one to generate a higher experience of being. And that is being outside of your physical nature. And with that being outside of your physical nature, you're reducing the pull of the earth. You're also getting closer to God. By being in your physical body only, you're far away from the divine as far as your psychophysiological makeup is concerned. If you were to overcome body consciousness and the weight of the body, you'll be moving closer to the divine from that perspective. Because there's no real moving closer to the divine. The divine is right here, right now. So you don't have to move anywhere. But if you want to have a transcendental mystical experience, you have to give up your body awareness. And that comes about when you're able to surrender and let go. And you don't surrender and let go to Nevager. You surrender and let go to Ra, creator spirit. And then that allows you to enter into the full surrender, which then is the transcendental mystical experience of dissolving into the absolute state or the absolute existence, or the one true divine nature. So we'll talk more about that next week. So this was an introduction leading into that. As you can see, this is a big line. This line is very dense and it's very compact. So there's a lot here to unravel. So we'll continue next week. Duara Sara Set Heru. Duara Sara Set Heru. Duara Sara Set Heru. Duara Sara Set Heru. Behudet. Dua until we meet again, and dua for joining in tonight. Behudet.